Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to VFX Minds.
The value of these enhancements on several occasions. I thought a demonstration would be more persuasive.
Please welcome your host for this evening, Miss Jerry Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the VFX Minds event. Tonight, we would like to recognize the award-winning creativity of artists, crew, and studios in the television industry, and acknowledge the amazing progress over the last 2 decades in the television visual effects. The individuals in this room have influenced the advancement of the art and made their living by transforming our collective imagination into visual reality. Their work continues to revolutionize the television industry and has a major impact in gaming, visualization, and motion pictures. Let's take a look back at some of this groundbreaking and award-winning imagery. you Primetime Emmy Award winners and nominees in our audience please stand? Come on! Woo! There's more in the back. Turn around, see them all. Congratulations to all of you for the tremendous work that you've done. Tonight, we've brought together a very talented group of professionals to discuss their experiences in creating some of the award-winning visual effects we've been seeing this evening. Joining us is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects producer and studio owner who's had an extraordinary impact on television visual effects. He's launched the new era of television CGI visual effects with the groundbreaking show Babylon 5 in 1993. Throughout his career, he supervised an impressive list of television and film projects, including Star Trek the Motion Picture, Star Trek Voyager, something I vaguely remember, I think, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the upcoming Red Tails. Please welcome Mr. Ron Thornton. His resume includes visual effects supervisor and film producer on Terminator 2 3D, James Cameron's Aliens of the Deep, and stereoscopic and visual effects supervisor for Avatar. As an expert on stereoscopic 3D production, he provided on-set supervision for Sanctum 3D and Final Destination 5 3D, and also happened to give James Cameron his start in the industry at Roger Corman Studios. Please welcome Chuck Comiskey. Our next guest has worked as a designer, sculptor, illustrator, and Academy Award-winning makeup artist. His credits include Dick Tracy, Starman, Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager. In the role of CG supervisor, he has multiple Emmy nominations and 2 Emmy Awards for his work on the Battlestar Galactica series. Currently, he's working with visual effects supervisor Gary Hutzel on the pilot Blood and Chrome and new Battlestar Galactica prequel. Please welcome Doug Drexler. He's an Emmy Award-winning animator and animation supervisor with an impressive list of television and visual effects credits. Currently a supervising artist at Pixomondo on the hit Steven Spielberg series Terra Nova. His past credits include Star Trek Enterprise, Surface, Hellboy, NCIS Los Angeles, Roughnecks, The Starship Troopers Chronicles, Life After People, and Ghost Whisperer. Please welcome Eric Hance. And our moderator for this evening is associate editor for Variety magazine, a longtime journalist, editor, and photographer who's captured entertainment and the arts for publications around the world. He worked in show business for more than 20 years as everything from a casting agent to a writer for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Please welcome David Cohen.
Wow, great to be here. I'm going to bust myself. I once interviewed one of Jerry's co-stars from Voyager and told him at the end of the interview that I thought that Jerry's 7 of 9 costume was the best special effect on television. He thought so too. All right, now let me tee some things up for our panel. You know, and I've been covering visual effects for Variety for about 8 years, longer if you go back to freelancing. And while there's a lot more fuss over visual effects for feature films, you know, even the people at the Visual Effects Society have been saying out loud for a long time, the people in television are doing it almost as well on much less budget and much shorter time and with far fewer resources. So let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I also want to say there are 2 big trends that I see in television, and I'm hoping to kick these around with our panel. One is there's a trend toward feature film production values coming to television, lots more spectacle, an expectation from the audience of that kind of visual richness. And that means you get shows like Game of Thrones and Mad Men that are very visually rich and detailed, and Visual effects are a part of creating that look. But at the same time, the audience is splintering. There are more channels. There are more shows. There's huge downward pressure on budgets, and that helps give rise to Real Housewives and reality television. And so how are visual effects bridging the gap between those two trends? Let's start out just by, I'm going to go down the panel. I'll start with Ron. We'll work this way. Okay. What are you working on now, and how does that tell us anything about those two trends?
Well, at the moment, I'm currently working on, I can't actually tell you the name of it. It's consulting on a Sci-Fi Channel movie. And it involves the destruction of one of the major US cities by some strange whirlwind thing. It's a real challenge because, again, the budget constraints of some of these sci-fi movies are extremely tight. And you know, the fact that the companies are able to produce in the region of 200 plus effect shots for these shows in a space of 4 or 5 weeks is just crazy. But we're able to do it now. I mean, we weren't able to do it 5 years ago even. So there's a very, very definite, as the technology progresses, unfortunately, we tend to throw more at it. So, you know, where a shot that would take so much to render back in 1993, it still takes the same amount of time, but you're just getting more for your money, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that answers the question. But.
Chuck?
Currently, I've been in India working with a Reliance group there, kind of teaching them principles of stereo 3D. I'm probably the oddball on this panel because the only television work I did was Saturday Morning Kitty television more years ago than I care to remember. But that being said, I'm also consulting with a small company, guiding them in 2D to 3D conversions or remastering, as I like to call it. That being said, as someone who's primarily worked in film, I have to say the quality of the work that I see on television is amazing, you know, and particularly given, just as Ron said, the shorter periods of time to do it, less budget usually, and yet you see what you've seen up here and pretty consistently and a lot of really good stuff on television. And I would say if there were a difference between what's being done there, because a lot of the software is the same and a lot of the techniques are the same, maybe it's a matter of scale. You know, when you're composing for a large screen, and particularly stereo, but a large screen thing, you know, I think a scale. I think they have to have a little more weight, you know, a little more pay attention to kinetic energy and so forth, where on a small screen, I think because of the fast pace and editing and everything, I mean, stuff just seems to move quicker. Now, that's not to say it doesn't move quick in film as well, but anyways. Oh, can I make one quick plug?
Sure.
One of the guys that organized this, and that's Rob. He should be taking a bow as well because he created the virtual set that we used on Avatar, the whole Pandora and everything. It was his concept to be able to pull all that together so that Jim Cameron on the capture stage could actually have his virtual camera, which was basically an LCD screen in front of him, and the environment of Pandora was fed into that, as was the Na'vi characters, so that he could be on the stage, which is just a flat stage. I mean, there certainly was stuff that modular set pieces that the actors and stunt people could use. But he could look at that and he would see the Na'vi actors. He could direct the stunt people and the actors just by looking over the camera. And besides that, he's a great animator and knows how to rig things. And so I just wanted to mention that because Rob is really a talent, and you know, New Tech is lucky to have him.
Okay, Doug, you're up.
Well, first let me say that Gary Hutzel wishes he could have been here. I'm just like, you know, sloppy seconds. But, and you're not going to believe this, and I'm still trying to get over it myself. You know, Gary's a family guy, and at Christmas time and Halloween, he goes home and he climbs a ladder and he puts the lights up and he, you know, he dresses the house. And just last week, he was showing me the videotape of his house from Halloween. And this guy's he's a visual effects guy that goes back to when they were shooting motion control on stage on Star Trek. And so you could imagine what the house looks like. Energy coming out the windows and stuff like that. But he was taking stuff down off the house about 5 days ago. And about 12 feet off the ground, he lost his footing on the ladder. And he slid down, he broke both legs. Anything to get out of talking to a bunch of people. I considered breaking both my legs too, because this is like, oh my God, look at these people here. But anyway, Gary, he really deserves all the credit for what's happened with Battlestar Galactica, and it really is an unbelievably unique situation for us. And I was really lucky when he called me when Enterprise went down. I remember I'd been on Star Trek for like 17 years, and the show was canceled. And I'm driving home, and I'm thinking, well, that's it. I'm probably, after a run of luck like that, I'm never going to work again. That's the end of that. And I get home, and there's a message on the answering machine, and it's Gary. And I know he's going to ask me to come to work on BSG. And I call him up, and he says, Doug, I heard about Enterprise. I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, but you know what? Every cloud has a silver lining. So that was it. I was on board. And I've been with Gary for like the last 6 years, and it really has been, and I guess we'll get into this later, the kind of setup that we have that's so unique. We're not a facility. We're actually an integrated part of the production like the art department is, which really changes things a lot. But what you were talking about how, it wasn't that long ago that there were 3 networks. And then you had, some syndicated stuff, and then cable started peeking in there. But then the internet, the pie has been split so fine at this point that the studios, they're scared to death to invest money in a show. I mean, even when the Galactica pilot was done, the landscape was different, and they were willing to build big, interesting sets. But at this point, and I mean, who knows what the hell's going on when they cancel a show after 2 episodes? It's totally wacky. How do you know a show's any good after 1 or 2 episodes? It doesn't make sense. But I really think that although the industry is in kind of a tough spot and there isn't a lot of money to spend, they don't want to put out a lot of money for big expensive sets, it actually has never been a better time for people like us. Because what's happening, and what happened on Blood and Chrome, is that you could still do these shows and actually do them cheaper, with less of a budget than you had before, and go bigger than we were able to go on the last Galactica. I mean, Blood and Chrome really is amazing. We just finished it up. In 8 months, we did almost 2,000 shots with 10 guys. Now, that's not counting our compers. That's 10 CG guys. And some of the most amazing guys, too. Guys that you know, like Kyle Toucher and Dave Morton and Neil Zapata and Jesse Tovez. God, I'm hoping I'm not leaving somebody out. I'll get punched in the arm if I didn't later. But anyway, I think that our type of people, we're going to get more work because the studios are going to find out that it's actually less expensive to build these sets in the computer. I mean, a few years ago, it was not. It cost more to do it as a visual effect. But now, it's much cheaper. And actually, it gives the director a lot more leeway. When you're on stage and you're shooting and you've got a crushing deadline and the gaffers and the lighting guys are waiting for you to line up your shot, and they say, I got to know, they have to know now because they got to get up there. You don't have time to set up the most beautiful shot that you possibly can. But if they go in there and they just concentrate on getting the shots of the actors that they want, and we get the green screen shots, we could line up every shot so that there's something interesting going on in the background, or the lines of perspective of the set are working with the characters. And well, I'm blathering on here. You go.
Eric.
Thanks, Doug. Hi, my name is Eric Hance, and currently I'm one of the CG supervisors at Pixmondo and working on Terra Nova. A little bit of backstory, on the subject of. Thanks, Doug. Until my crew is here tonight, I love them dearly. On the subject of feature film work making its way onto the television screens, Pixmondo is an international company that works on big, beautiful feature films like 2012 and Green Lantern and Hugo coming out in the next week and change. So done a lot of really beautiful work over time. When they came together with Kevin Blank to start on Terra Nova, the goal was to take that incredible high bar that they'd been achieving in the film world and to bring it to TV screens. So I'm very honored to be just one part of that operation, of that group of people that take and do that beautiful work each week. Really, really thankful. It was started in 2001 by a real smart guy named Thilo Kuther. So we've benefited greatly from the great vision and high bar of quality that they had set ahead of time. So when it came time to start Terra Nova, the idea was, okay, how do we take these incredible film technologies and, again, bring them to the screen on a weekly basis? And certainly the answer, like all of us know, is the people. You really need the very best people. The software is fantastic. The software can do great things, but without the right people, it's nothing. So again, our operation looks very much like a feature film. We've got an animation director, awesome guy from Pixar named Colin Brady, and a really fantastic compositing supervisor and an on-set VFX soup named Jason Zimmerman. And then between animation and compositing is us, on the CG generalists, and we take, and it's our job to make sure that the creatures are sitting right in the plate and to make sure that the subsurface scattering through the skin looks right and all the beautiful primeval vistas. So again, those things that you don't normally associate with a weekly television series, we've got this fantastic opportunity to reach out and try to achieve. And again, I'm so thankful and so blessed, again, by the crew that we have. Because they just don't quit. They take and they give it everything. So, you know, the software that we use is fantastic, but the people is really where I find that it really rests.
Let me ask you sort of an off-the-wall question. In movies, one of the things that we're seeing is that visual effects can be the star. Mm-hmm. I'll give away a little journalistic secret. When I go to look at for the visual effects Oscar contenders every year, the first thing I have to look at is the box office leaders for the year. That's the only category where that's true, because visual effects and animation have become box office drivers. I don't think that's really true in television yet. Actors and writing are still the star, although visual effects are becoming a more and more important piece of that, as you see fantasy shows like Game of Thrones and things like that. So I'm wondering, is it liberating for you to not have that pressure, or do you wish you had got to have more attention on the visual effects in your shows? Anybody? You've got dinosaurs. I mean, your effects are in the commercials every week.
Yeah, you know, I've got to say that I'm a process person. My background is as a painter, so I love artwork. So I never want to hurry through anything. So in some ways, television is very liberating, and I've worked in TV and film. But TV is very liberating because you know that you've got probably about a week to take and make something as fantastic as humanly possible, and then you have to let go. So as a painter, I can remember in school, you know, working for weeks or possibly months on a painting. TV has certainly removed a lot of that from me. So in some ways, it's made me more productive and made me learn how to work more quickly and efficiently.
Ron, you've been doing this for a long time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the visual effects in shows like Terra Nova and Galactica are kind of unique, and they're the sort of forefront. They're the real cherry on top of the cake of the visual effects work that's going on for television. The majority of the work that's going on for TV is really things like bullet hits, wire removals, blood splatters, fixes in production, armpit stain removal. I mean, no, seriously, we did that on Babylon 5, armpit stain removal. It's, they couldn't afford an extra shirt, but they could afford for us to rotoscope. But, you know, that's the bread and butter of the visual effects industry for television. I mean, the shows where the visual effects aren't obvious, like Undercovers was every week, even though it was shot in Los Angeles, every week they go to a different location. So you do location changes. You know, you take Olvera Street and you turn it into Spain. You take Olvera Street and you turn it into Paris. And you know, that sort of stuff is much more of the bread and butter. These shows are really the flagship shows. They're the unique ones, and they're the ones that, you know, always walk away with the awards.
Yeah, well, I mean, for that reason, we've always felt tremendous pressure when doing the visual effects for Galactica, because, I mean, all you had to do was look at the internet the next day if we had a talkie episode. Mm-hmm. You know, people were upset. Where's the space battles? So we always felt a great responsibility. But, you know, the thing was that usually on Galactica, the story and the effects were very much intertwined, and because of that, we were often brought into the writer's room to come up with ideas for sequences. But you're totally right, and there's going to be more and more of that type of work, and we've even done more and more of it. I mean, we've done shots like, you know, a father and a son having a talk in the kid's bedroom, and they're sheeted against green screen, and we build the entire bedroom. Now, who would ever even think that they wouldn't just put up 4 walls and some books and stuff like that? But it actually ends up being cheaper for them to do it that way, and we're going to see more and more and more of that.
Well, there's a lot of similar kind of work done in feature films as well, with rig removal, adding hair to someone's bald spot, for instance, and taking out wrinkles in some cases, and so forth. And when it gets down to pressure and speed, generally speaking, in feature films, when you start getting down to the end of post-production and they're putting everything together and they still don't have all the shots and they've run out of money, then I suspect that the guys that are working in feature films are experiencing exactly what you're talking about in television as well.
Yeah, I mean, also the turnaround times are getting absolutely ridiculous. I mean, in the last 2 years, I've just seen laughable turnaround times. The delivery of plates from production from a locked cut, so the background elements that are going to be used in a composite shot or whatever, being delivered on a Friday night, and the due date for the show delivery is Friday. So, well, you can have the weekend. Oh, thanks. You know, we've got 300 man-hours worth of stuff to do, and so we can have the weekend to do it. But that's very, very commonplace now. They're not locking these shows until the very, very, very last minute. There's a certain police procedural that you guys do that happens on an island somewhere out in the Pacific that will remain nameless, that they're famous for that. Absolutely famous for the plates coming in on a Friday to be delivered on Monday.
Huh. I mean, we hear about the same complaints in movies, but they're talking about it being compressed to weeks, not to hours.
Yeah.
Oh, that depends. I've worked with directors that it may not be hours, but it certainly is days. And there was a term that's been coined. A show was not locked; it's latched.
Nice.
Oh man. So, but you know, the funny thing is, also in TV, there are now certain big, I would say, or mid-sized visual effects companies, Pixologic, Zoic, a handful that are really making the reputation in television. But you don't have companies that are sort of the Titanic reputation and scale of ILM and Weta and Framestore. So you really are working with smaller companies. What does that imply for how you do a shot, how you have to think about a shot, or how you have to think about an episode when you're dealing with smaller companies and smaller teams?
Well, I mean, they say that the best innovation happens in small groups, and I'm a firm believer of that.
Well, there's no doubt. You know, for us, I think a lot of these issues that we're talking about, we haven't eliminated, but we've really taken control of on Galactica, because we are part of the production in the same way that the art department is part of the production, or editorial is part of the production. We're in the same building with editorial. When we do shots, we take our shots personally down to Eric, our editor, and he cuts them in while we're sitting there. If they don't work, we run back and we change them. We don't ask for anybody's permission. That's okay, which makes a tremendous amount of difference. The approval, the chain of approval is not so great on Galactica. They really trust us after, you know, so many years of doing the actual show. But you got to remember that Gary started on Star Trek: The Next Generation, where he worked with Ron Moore, and then through DS9. So by the time we got to Galactica, Ron totally trusted us. He knew us completely. So if something didn't work, we could take the initiative and change it. We wouldn't even have to go to Ron. Once we had it done, we'd show it to Ron, and he'd go, "Oh my God, I never would have thought of that. That's fantastic." You know, but to be able to be a part of the production and just launch into something if we see it's not working, it saves so much time. And really, that's the key to how we've been able to do so many shots in such a short period of time on Galactica, because we're actually in there, you know, with our sleeves rolled up, with editorial and cutting shots into the show and doing previs without, we don't need to get approval, we just do it. So it's really unique. I don't think I've ever been so closely intertwined with the actual production. It's never been so close to actually to the process of the making of the film. You know, we really feel like filmmakers. It's really unique.
You know, we've been talking a lot about the people, and certainly with a lot of productions, you get that fantastic long-term relationship of trust, which I feel like we've certainly gained with the studio at this point. But one of the things that really helps us a lot is the shorthand that we have with our crew. The people that I'm working with on this production, at least on the CG generalist side, Mark Scheimer, Janet Sheegan, Ed Ruiz, who's my lighting and shading killer guy. Seriously, without having that shorthand with those people that I've worked with for years, it would be a lot harder. In terms of the work that you see there, you see that, you know, Terra Nova has an incredible variety of work. Some of it is the creatures, which is certainly the top billing point most of the time. But you've also got big, beautiful primeval vistas. You can't get away with always just, you know, shooting a live set. You've got to have something that feels extraordinary.
I'm going to jump in with something here that is not directly on point for this.
Sure.
But I've got Chuck Comiskey on a panel, and I'm not going to miss my opportunity to ask Chuck Comiskey this question. We're now looking at the dawn of the 3D television era. And I'll tell you, by the way, I've seen in Variety announcements of 3D television going back as far as 1950. But this time it seems like it's really going to happen. What should we as an industry be looking for as suddenly you start having to do shows like Terra Nova or Blood and Chrome and think about 3D for the future?
Well, I think conceptually it's 3D is probably, whether it's flat or stereo, it still gets down to composition. And I think good composition, you have plenty of depth in an image. I mean, if you look at Avatar as an example with Cameron, and granted Cameron is pretty exceptional, but you know, every frame is designed, the composition is good. When I was setting stereo and all the performance capture, you know, you start out with really good, you know, composition, and it became pretty straightforward to figure out, you know, what the stereo should be. As far as television is concerned, for the moment I'm kind of disappointed, and I'm kind of disappointed in the sense that it's kind of like everyone is waiting for something to happen. There's a lot of 3D, the statistics I'm reading, a lot of 3D sets out there, but there's damn little being broadcast anywhere. And the bulk that I've seen, not everything, but the bulk of what I've seen, including some of the sports stuff, it's like 3D is still being treated as a gimmick. In other words, it's way too much stereo, way too much depth, everything they're pushing out of the screen and into the living room. And I just have to say, I've been over with some friends at their house watching some sports things and channel flipping between the 4 channels that are doing. And I got to tell you, after about 20 minutes, you know, they were saying, you know what, my eyes are kind of tired. Let's just watch this on 2D. And so I think I think the concept of treating 3D stereo as a gimmick is going to have to go. One of the things that Cameron started right at the beginning of Avatar were 2 things. Didn't want to tire the audience's eyes out because it was going to be at least a 3-hour movie. Turned out to be 2.5, but nonetheless. And the second thing was he wanted the stereo to enhance the story, not be the star. He wanted an audience to sit down, and when they got in the theater after the first 10 or 15 minutes, they were obviously aware of the stereo environment, but hopefully they would forget that. And I think of the people that I've talked to, you know, we were very successful at that. And I think we need to develop something like that on TV. Now, granted, there certainly will be times when you want to use 3D as a gimmick, but not all the time, and not to the degree that you're wearing people's eyes out watching it.
Well, Jim has been very aggressive talking about how You're going to be able to shoot with the same camera positions. You're going to be able to have 2D and 3D off a single camera position and perhaps a single rig. You know, essentially saying to people, you're going to be able to do what you're doing now and get 3D out of it. In visual effects, that's not really going to be true because at the very least, you're going to have to render 2 eyes. And budgets are already squeezed, time is already squeezed. Are you even talking about what are we going to do when we get to a 3D world for these shows?
You know, I'll tell you, we were ready to do it on Blood and Chrome. We did tests of all the sets in 3D, and we sent them to the, you know, the upper echelon. And there's just a fear. They're afraid to take a chance. But we could have done it. And it looked amazing. I mean, we were amazed. We were blown away by it.
Are you talking about virtual sets or physical sets?
Virtual sets, yes. But we use Lightwave's, you know, standard 3D, you know, renderer. And
So no, they're not even asking you to future-proof the show and maybe stash away a 3D version that you could release on Blu-ray? Or...
It could happen, actually. It really could, because we pushed to do it, and it was totally doable. Totally doable. But they just, you know, they didn't want to, they were afraid. They didn't want to take the chance. It's
not encouraging for us fans of 3D to hear that the Sci-Fi Channel is afraid of 3D.
Yeah, well. But, you know, I mean, I think I was just reading just a couple of days ago, was it the LA Times? Or with Scorsese talking about his 3D picture. And he's like, don't resist it. He says, just go for it, do it, you know. And it's going to happen. It has to. It will. There's no doubt about it. It's a storytelling tool, and it will eventually.
And in some ways, 3D, I mean, as someone who's been ranting in Variety about the problems of 3D theatrical exhibition, it's sort of a pleasure in some ways to sit down with a good 3D television that it's bright, it's clear. I don't have to worry about salt and butter on the glasses, you know. I want to ask you guys, you know, as I said earlier, one thing that TV still has is that the acting and the writing are still the star. Okay, they're really selling Terra Nova with the dinosaurs, but still, even on Terra Nova, it's really that cast.
It is.
So with these flagship shows, if you call them, you really have to make these effects interact with those stars and with that ensemble. It's not even just one person. Sometimes it's a lot of people in a frame. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges of having those stuff interact believably and consistently week after week. You want to take a shot at that, Ron?
Yeah, again, the tools for doing this have just got so much better in leaps and bounds over the years. You know, in terms of being able to light and composite things so that they look more realistic, integrating them into the set. There are tools now that automate tracking really, really effectively and efficiently. And the thing is that a lot of these productions they're pressed for time. I won't say they're lazy. I don't think that's the truth. They're pressed for time. A lot of times where you want to set up a shot where it should really be a locked-off shot to try and save money or whatever, they just don't do it. They do it handheld, no tracking markers, nothing, and then afterwards we have to fix it. Well, the tools are there now to be able to do that, thankfully. Yeah, it's just, again, technology just leaps and bounds. It's a constant change, and keeping ahead of it is actually a challenge.
You see, Ron, when you pull a miracle off, that then becomes standard operating procedure.
Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, exactly.
Now, we just saw dinosaurs interacting with people in your clip, so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that. Just how do you pull that off on such a tight schedule and with such a limited budget?
Well, I'm not completely qualified to talk about the whole of that subject. Kevin Blank was on set and made sure that, you know, the interactions were clear, you know, the eye lines were good, and, you know, obviously making sure that people were in the right place. After, you know, he does that hard work and gets that choreographed right, then of course we take that and we do our best to make sure that the vision that was there is pulled off and is carried out. And the wonderful thing is you get some things that are expected, great, okay, this all laid out like this. And other times you find fantastic, well, this could have worked, but now we can actually do this. Like, for example, one of the shots where the camera takes and cranes up and around wasn't a shot that was originally planned. But once Kevin got back with the footage, he realized, wait a minute, we don't just have to shoot it from here. Now we can can bring it all the way around. So a lot of it is certainly like the energy and the creativity that somebody like him brings to the process. And then it's the rest of us running alongside going, how awesome can we make this? So.
Doug, I mean, I'm a BSG fan. I'm looking forward to the new series. You know,
well, I mean, it was really, really interesting what we had to do. And I mean, for instance, we're lucky Gary's on stage when we're shooting all the green screen stuff, and he's a very strong presence, and this guy knows what he's talking about and what he's doing. I mean, he's been through everything. So the set stuff is really under control. You couldn't have a better person on set. But when you have for instance, the CIC in Galactica, where you have a lot of consoles, where people are working at them, and that the camera is following our characters across a balcony, down a set of stairs, across the CIC, around some console, stop, pick up a cup of coffee, drink it, then go down to the center of the CIC where the main ops table is, and have a conversation. And there's nothing, it's all green screen. So first of all, to track all of that, to motion track that is a nightmare. I mean, really motion tracking, even today with the technology the way it is still more black magic and voodoo than anything. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, it's like every time we have a track shot, I'm like, oh my God, is it gonna work? But when you're walking people in and around consoles and up and down stairs and stuff like that, and basically the director is taking Gary's word for what's gonna be there, that is really, I mean, honestly, when I was doing the CIC shots, I'm like, Gary, I don't know how are we ever gonna do this? I can't even imagine it, you know, but it worked out amazingly. When you see the CIC, I mean, honestly, I swear to God, you're going to be blown away when you see the CIC, how it works. And we did expand the CIC out some. You know, the idea on Galactica is that this is the ship 40 years earlier, when Galactica was the tip of the spear. When we saw the ship on the Edward James Olmos show, it was a third-string ship. They'd been stripping it for years. It could launch like maybe 100 Vipers. This ship can. When you watch Galactica and you see 1,000 Cylon Raiders, a cloud of Cylon Raiders attacking the Galactica, well, look, when that ship was designed, it was designed to meet that threat. So the idea is that this ship can launch 1,000 Vipers. So when you see the hangar bay and you see the activity and you see people walking in and around in lifts coming up and down with Vipers and cranes carrying Vipers back and forth, that was just, you know, I don't want to use the word, it was a nightmare of coordination and stuff like that. It really was a wonderful, fantastic challenge to do that. But God, you know, we have this amazing sizzle reel that we did of the show, and they won't let us show it. It's so disappointing because you just, you know, we're so proud of it. All right, I'll shut up now.
we're almost out of time. We're almost out of time, so I'd like to go down the road, starting with Eric. I'll just tell our audience, if you would, what trends do you see coming in TV visual effects, and what should we be looking out for over the next few years?
Wow. Well, I think everybody's kind of guessing right now whether 3D is going to stay or go, whether it's going to be, like you said, a driving force of creativity or something that people kind of look at and go, maybe we'll try that again in a decade. But considering what our crew has pulled off with Terra Nova, I have no doubts, you know, as we've done experiments, you know, that we can do a beautiful 3D version of it. In terms of future 3D trends, certainly with high-profile shows like Terra Nova, I see a continued growth in the variety of software and certainly the variety of type of talent that's getting used there. So again, methods that would have only been used in film in the past, going from this piece of software to that, I think are going to become more commonplace, certainly because of developments like geocache and FBX in Lightwave 10. Different software programs, I think, are going to talk to each other better. So at least from a software end, I see things going the realm of a bigger pipeline, but not necessarily it's slowing things down. But the bigger pipeline and the stronger talent will result in bigger and bigger and more beautiful work.
Doug.
Yeah, you know, I think that it's going to be literally an explosion of more of the type of stuff that Ron's talking about, where they're building less sets and we're doing more and more of it against a green screen. I think that is really going to that's going to explode. We're going to see, once they realize how much money they could save. And really, Blood and Chrome, demonstrates that unbelievably, what you could do with nothing. You know, no sets, nothing, just green. I mean, when I watched the show the first time, 90 minutes and nothing but green, I almost had a heart attack. You know, it's like, oh my, you know. But when you see it now, every one of these sets is a real place. It's really there, and you believe it, you know. So I think that when they realize how much money they saved and what they get, and it's actually more than they could have gotten if they went and they put the money into building the sets, much more. The scope is much, much bigger on the show, and it cost a fraction of what the last show did.
Chuck.
Well, my limited experience in television, Saturday morning kiddie television notwithstanding, and commercials and so forth. I mean, I think I would like to amplify what both you gentlemen have said in terms of the technique, software, and so forth, but again, just emphasize that it's the vision of the people that are creating the material and the artists that are doing it, and I emphasize artists because even, you know, a lot of times people that are sitting there, you know, getting eye strain doing roto and stuff like that aren't really appreciated because it takes a lot of talent to do that, and probably a lot of you in the audience are aware of that. So how does that affect what's going to happen? I think things are going to get better. I think there are going to be some things that get automated, for instance, roto and rotomation and so forth. Clean plates, when that's what you have to do when you're pulling stuff out, that applies more to stereo. But I don't think stereo for a large audience acceptance is around the corner, but it is coming. And it's definitely something that we need to be aware of. And like I said, the thing I think most is appreciation for the artists. As a supervisor, I mean, I'm very concerned with the people that I work with because I'm only as good as their work.
And Ron.
Definitely virtual locations. I think you're going to see more and more of that because it is easier to do now. Well, it's possible to do now, and it's not that long ago where you just couldn't make it work financially or any way at all. And with Blood and Chrome and V and shows like that, where they're doing a lot of virtual set work, it's really sort of taking it steps further. The other thing that I think is happening is that there's always been a certain amount of trickle down from places like ILM to the TV world. It takes a little while. Like in the 90s, it was the morph. You know, the morph you'd see on a Michael Jackson video. And then it took a while before we were able to take care of it. Well, that gap is shortening. So that stuff that's being done on the features now is available to us to do on television budget almost immediately. And, you know, I just think that's going to be ongoing. That again, it's more of a situation where it's not being run by the tools, it's being run by the artists, and they are able to do an awful lot more with the tools that they've got.
Thank you, Ron Thornton, Chuck Comiskey, Doug Drexler, Eric Hance. That's all the time we have. Thank you for coming out.
As co-artistic director of the Actors Studio West, our next guest is renowned in the entertainment industry as an actor's director. He's directed 8 actors to Academy Award nominations, 2 of whom, Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda, won for On Golden Pond. As a director, he received an Oscar nomination as Best Director for On Golden Pond, and his credits include The Rose, The Cowboys, For the Boys, and many others. Please welcome co-artistic director of the Actors Studio West, Mark Rydell.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please be seated. Actors and directors and industry professionals dedicate their lives to the study and actually the advancement of film and television art form. And over the past couple of decades, animation and visual effects have clearly had a real impact on the industry as a whole, with more and more effects-driven projects being produced. And now, many actors and directors and production designers and cinematographers, they're terrified. They're terrified that they will be replaced by technology. The fact is that the human element can never be replaced. The technology is nothing if not in support of the human experience. And new technology only serves to enhance the human experience, not replace it. Remarkable developments in films such as Avatar and the upcoming Tintin from Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson demonstrate this healthy marriage between technology and the essential human element. I am really pleased to introduce my friend Rob Powers, the head of 3D development at NewTek, art director on Tintin and creator of the industry's first virtual art department, which was for the film Avatar. And Rob will demonstrate this new technology. Now, don't be frightened. It'll be fine, I promise you. Now, Rob.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Mark Rydell. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. Is my mic on? Yes? No? Yeah, well, here we are. You know, I'm trying to get over being backstage with Mark Rydell and Jerry Ryan right now because that's an amazing thing. So thank you both of you for being here. You know, Mark was so eloquent about the human element, and the human element is central to technology. As you know, some of you may know I did the virtual art department on Avatar and also was a virtual art director on Tintin, but virtual production has a tremendous benefit to production. A lot of people last year saw the stuff that we did and said, I'm not Jim Cameron. You know, this doesn't really, the virtual camera thing, I don't get it, we don't use it. But the truth is that it solves so many problems for production. It's not just the concept of, you know, a virtual camera exclusively, but it is the human element driving this technology. If you think about it, the technology for 20 years was kind of stagnant. It was a post-process where everything was done in the post-production process after the fact, not in the moment. So filmmaking, as Mark could tell you, the actor studio I've been to so many times, is organic. You solve so many problems. You have discovery in the moment when you're actually making a film. It's a live action process. And there's interactive collaboration between actors, director, production designer, art directors, the whole process. So technology must serve this process. It must serve the artist and the individual. One of the things I love about NewTek, the company that I work for now, is that, you know, many of you know the products from NewTek, but throughout history of this company, they have had products that serve the individuals and allow you to do things that before cost thousands and thousands, or if not millions of dollars, were out of reach. This is NewTek's philosophy: empower individuals. So the TriCaster Portable Live Studio does that, and also Lightwave 3D. As much of the work you've seen tonight was done with the Lightwave 3D software. In fact, pretty much you can say the history of television visual effects is the history of Lightwave, because it is from Babylon 5, from the beautiful work that Ron Thornton was so inspired to do in 1993, all the way to today with the beautiful stuff that we saw from Terra Nova. The bleeding edge, though, oftentimes comes at a very high cost. It's visionary filmmakers like Jim Cameron, who have all the budget and the schedule and support of the studios, and also have the vision to innovate. But, you know, having that funding is an important part of the process. You know, part of having the technology at that level is it's crucial to the process, but it's kind of out of reach, and that was what some of the feedback we heard from last year from most people, that I'm not Jim Cameron, I can't really have access to the VCAM system that was being shown, or the virtual processes of Avatar. You may have seen the VCAM system that we did. Did any of you see that performance last year? We were on stage with Dick Van Dyke, who was good to be here tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't come. But also, we had William Shatner in the performance on stage. It was a great presentation from them. But the VCAM system is the same system we used on Avatar to do a lot of the virtual walkthroughs for the art department. You know, it's a great system. It does many wonderful things, but it's a $60,000 entry point for that hardware. So as you can see, for television production, it's out of reach for a lot of us. And the tragedy of that is that the virtual process is so crucial to the types of filmmaking advancements and television advancements that we're seeing. That innovation is really part of the process. So what we've done, what I want to share with you now, is take off the shelf, you know, from a $60,000 entry point with the VCAM system, we've taken off the shelf technology, which many of you may have a PlayStation 3 device already. You may know of the Move. It's kind of a cool little device. But what we've done is we've implemented an SDK into the architecture of our software so that you can actually use this PlayStation Move controller in the same way that I was using the VCAM system last year. So we were at $60,000. A lot of TV productions can't afford that. A lot of art departments can't afford that, especially before you're greenlit. You have all of the control with the trigger of the zoom. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can freeze your frames. You can even basically go into our VPR system. So if you want to go in and grab a shot of something that you've seen and have that advanced rendering, you can activate that in real time. So the cool thing about this is, you know, it allows you to, I want to highlight that multiple devices can be plugged into our Virtual Studio. It's not just the Move controller, or you have to make a decision, do you want to plug in if you have the VCAM, or if you have the 3D connection devices that we had last year that we showcased. All of that can work together. So you can have a device driving different things like a light or a camera or anything that can be animated. This is perfect technology for art departments and before a project is completely. The other thing I want to say is all this motion that I'm doing with the handheld camera is all recordable. So you can record this in takes. You have multiple takes of your performance that you have canned in the computer of anything that you're animating with these devices. Whether it's a light or anything can be animatable. Surface, it's great for independent films, architectural visualization. You can see how you can be composing and recording this stuff as a walkthrough with a client. You can explore a set as we're doing here with Virtual Location Scout. Let me just pan around here because this is kind of pretty long street. There's some cool stuff. Much of the award-winning imagery that you've seen tonight has one thing in common. It was using our Lightwave software. So what I'm going to do now is going to go in here in our Lightwave software and show you, wow, there's a character in the scene. Let's see what's going on. Oh, whoa, wait, what's happening? Hey there.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Well, I'm here, you know. I'm here. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm waiting for someone.
Who are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for Jerry Ryan. I know it's here.
Okay.
And, you know, I would like to have an autograph.
You want to have an autograph from Jerry Ryan? I do too.
Yes, it would be so cool. So cool, really.
So, where are you from, stranger on a park bench?
Well, I come from Italy.
Oh, you're from Italy. Okay. Okay, you're from Italy. Okay, I see. Let me see. So we have a working camera here with live puppeting performance from our performer Lino Grande, who's using, thanks Lino. You see, this is really the essence of what we were doing, as Chuck Comiskey pointed out. You know, the technology starts at the level, Jim Cameron level, that type of innovation. But this is technology, and seeing it in person on set, that is so innovative because it allows you to do these kinds of things. These are two examples of how you would interface the human element with the technology. I'm holding the camera in my hand with this simple controller that costs $49, or if you have a PlayStation, it comes with it. It's plugged in, but any device that you want to articulate into our software, the SDK is open. So if you have custom game controllers, anything that adheres to that standard, you can get in. All of the, let's move forward a little bit. When you control this and you record your takes, it is a baked asset in the computer, so that once you have your take, you can re-camera as many times as you want on that. You can have your actor come back, get the best performance from your actor or actress, and cut those pieces together so they're happy because what they see is their best performance. It's a really great thing. So feedback from our key studios and beta team is paramount for what we've been doing. This kind of feedback, what are you doing over there?
Nothing.
So through feedback from our key users, we've had this kind of technology. The feedback has allowed us to do this. So, one of the great things about the feedback is that people tell you what they need to get their shots done. I come from the same kind of production environment we've talked about here. I started a long time ago working with Al and John and everyone. It was a process in television production that gave us the experience that we need to get these shots out. So, I really want to share with you tonight, through all of the feedback we've gotten from those individuals, from our studios and our beta testers, which we appreciate, some really great new features of our Lightwave 11 software. So you're the first crowd, the first individuals that have seen this. Let's take a look at some of the new features that you will find in Lightwave 11. Hi, Mike. It's good to see you. This is instancing. So we now have native instancing. Oh my God, you can get all of the detail that you want. This is a 1.6 million poly object. So, when you load these kinds of things that may have been sculpted in ZBrush, for example, a heavy polygon count, you want to see them in OpenGL. So the instancing are not only shown as bounding boxes, but in our software, the render instances are being shown in full OpenGL. It's a really, really awesome feature. And you can see the level that you can get to. So you take your shots, your quality level just skyrockets. It's an amazing new feature. And I think it's going to allow all of the artists to bring the technology into their shots in such a way and facilitate great artwork. Here you can see kind of a nodal example of that. All of the detail of these instances allows you to get that much more into your shots. The expectations are higher from the audience. Here's a spaceship that Lino did, actually, with just some Nernies surfaced on the surface. Here's some of the examples of doing foliage of an environmental type of instancing. So basically, you can create an ecosystem type effect where you have certain weight given to certain kinds and certain percentages of the foliage so that you can replicate all of the complexities of a natural environment. These kinds of things were impossible to load into common memory before. You couldn't get this level of detail. So it's a really great advancement, the instancing. Here's a shot from Iron Sky, who the guys in Finland are doing. This is incredible work with our instancing for spaceships. So instancing is one of the big new features that's coming to you in Lightwave 11. We're really proud of that. The next thing that kind of ties into that is our flocking system. Now, flocking is incredible. This is a hypervoxels flocking situation. It's kind of an abstract thing, but it kind of shows you what you can do. This is an example that's more practical. A whole herd of our piranha aliens, also done by Lino here, running it on the surface of a planet. How many times have you needed that? Like herds and massive things. Terra Nova, this is perfect for that situation. These things are being deformed by MDD. So you can apply MDD to all your instances. Here's flocking of bats. This is a bat that I actually did for a film called Bats a long time ago, but we put it into the system, and it has intelligent flocking, so they detect each other. They don't collide. You can have them attract and repel, and you just get really quick, beautiful flocking for birds and airplanes and helicopters and any kind of thing. Swarms of bees. The flocking system is incredible, and it's in conjunction with our instancing system. Also, they both work with a VPR. So if you want to see this stuff in real-time rendered, it's awesome. The next thing I want to talk about is Python. So Python is the foundation of scripting language in feature film production. Disney's using it, everybody's using it. DreamWorks, ILM, Weta. It ties all the programs together. It is the way that you can really get into the nuts and bolts. The problem in the past was that we had LScript, which is a fantastic language, but it was its own island unto itself, much as MELScript is. And so Python scripting is the new language that is kind of like bringing all of the packages together, allows you to communicate between the packages, and what you just saw was that chessboard was all being driven by Python scripting. So some of our developers actually tried to play chess with this, and they lost. So you can have intelligent, in the script that can be built in. The next thing we have are interchange tools. Interchange is so important in pipeline. All the pipeline stuff you heard talked about here from Eric and others is very important. Our biggest one is GoZ. The new one is GoZ. So the GoZ support is a button push to get you from ZBrush directly into Lightwave and back and forth. So if you start modeling, you push it. Thank you. I love it. So you get your models directly in. It's awesome. It's incredible. One button push back to Lightwave layout to render. It sets up all your nodal flow for you. It figures out your displacement maps automatically from ZBrush. Here's another great thing. You can send your models into ZBrush, sculpt your endomorphs, your morph targets, and with one button push, send those back in and create your morph targets for the face. That was how the face that was done on this real-time puppet character that we did tonight. So it's incredible. The technology pulls together, and it all works together. Another thing is Unity support. We're shipping with Unity now. When you get Unity, you will be able to load Lightwave scenes in. You will be able to have interactive feedback back and forth between the Unity game engine. We love our game community, and we're coming full force at that. So interchange is great. In addition to the FBX support, which I think is second to none, we actually have a better FBX import and support, I think, than some of the Autodesk, their own products have. So we have great, one of the things I want to mention about that is the pixel perfect camera matching between Maya and Lightwave. So FBX, that was a thing in the past, it was difficult with compositing. We've nailed that, we've cracked that nut. So you also have Maya Geometry Cache, which allows you to not only have MDD deforming, but you can load things directly from Maya back and forth into Lightwave. That's what they're doing also on Terra Nova with the dinosaurs. And I mentioned the FBX Pixel Perfect camera matching, which is also an incredible thing. This is all tool sets that allow you to integrate Lightwave into any production pipeline. It's very useful. VFX artists like me and Al and John and many of you in the audience and Don, we all love to blow things up. We love destruction and mayhem in our lives for some reason. So, you know, when we implemented some tools to allow you to do this, we wanted to have a complete workflow. So you're not just, you know, here's some new tool and kind of figure out how to do it. We have a new workflow, a tool called the fracture tool. You load in any object into Modeler, it decimates that object and breaks it into pieces. One of the great things about fracture, so you want to blow up ships, you want to smash glass, you can place fracture points to control exactly the density of where you want that to happen. Artists need to be able to control this stuff. But the great thing that you need to know about Lightwave's implementation is in other packages, I'm not going to name all of them, but pretty much every other package, the pieces that you break up are all separate items. So when you load the kind of complexity and detail that you load in these types of scenes, you have a scene graph that is so busy that you can't deal with it. So in Lightwave, it's all contained in one object, if you choose to. You can also break it up the other way if you want, but in Lightwave, you have the choice of saving the broken pane of glass as one object. When you take it in, fracture is very useful because you place these fracture points, but where it really shines is with our bullet implementation. So we've implemented bullet in Lightwave 11 so that you can load these things in, and there's our bullet. Well, it looks great, right? Yeah, bullet's working. There you go. Well, check this out. So 2012, we're talking, you know, you want to kind of do that level of effects. We are bringing it to you, and this is some great work that was done with our fracture tool and with Bullet. Very simple to get this stuff going, and interactive. This was a shot that Matt Gorner, our interface designer, did in the hotel. So this is really quick. This is, it underscores the fact that it doesn't take you 17 hours. You got to go away and come back and see this stuff. It's interactive. That shot that you saw with all the stuff coming down was so interactive that it happens literally in front of you. Whereas if you remember dynamics calculations, not just in Lightwave, but in any application, it's a big kind of pain to get through that. So it's interactive with even this tremendously large amount of data. There's many other enhancements in Lightwave 11. You know, actually, you know, we can't cover them all because it will be too long, but I do want to mention a few highlights that I think are important. For the kind of work that we do, enhanced render buffer support with presets so that you can choose your render buffer channels and save all of those out as presets for the types of shots that you want to do. I mean, this is really great for the kind of compositing workflow that we do on pretty much every shot. There's tons of render enhancements so that you can see unified sampling. There's the print render output for any kind of print work, for magazine work and print. It figures out those layouts for you. It's a really great workflow. In addition, we have the shadow catcher. We don't have a shadow catcher, we have a shadow reflection catcher. So it not only does shadows, but it does reflections. You want to match stuff to your plates, it just nails it. So we want you to get your shots done as quickly as possible. This is the kind of workflow that we're implementing from our experience. This is a great one. The VPR, now you can shift click and you select a surface automatically. So if you click on a surface, yep, there you go. I used that the other day. It was actually really useful. So major speedups also in our OpenGL. We've had multiple times speedups in OpenGL to facilitate the kind of walkthroughs that you just saw so that we have the frame rates that you're working with. The VPR now works with instancing as well. So all that instancing, you turn it on, it's gorgeously lit. It looks beautiful very quickly. and the shift-click surface thing, of course. But handling of large data sets has also been optimized. When we were testing with some of the geometry that we've had our Beta Studio testers have sent to us, we started with scenes that had so much data, it took like 30, 45 minutes to load some of the assets. We got those down to about 3 or 4 minutes with like thousands and thousands of objects and tremendously complex data. So all of that has been sped up. Another thing I want to say is, we're expecting the final release of Lightwave 11 software by the end of the year. So all of the things that you've seen tonight that I just showed you are not coming, they're in the software. So our internal beta team has been testing this, it's working. Their studios are using them in their shots, as I'm going to show you later, so it's not like a future thing that you may get sometime far away. But if you want to wait for the final release, that's fine. But if you want to get your hands on some of this stuff now, we're actually offering this to all of our 10 and 10.1 registered users now. So if you want to go to the website and get our pre-release version of Lightwave 11 before we ship the final, all of the things we just showed you are from that version of the software, and our studios are using that. So you can also get more information on our website if you want to get more details. So if you want the features now, you can get your hands on them and start trying and playing with this stuff now, right now, like this minute on our website. So during the panel discussion, you heard how well Lightwave fits into a pipeline. You heard, unfortunately Gary couldn't be here, but he had some great feedback that they were talking about from Universal about how it fit into their pipeline. Eric was discussing how it works at Pixomondo. It's a great pipeline tool. It's been enhanced with the interchange tools like the Maya Geometry Cache, the FBX, now with the GoZ. You have really great tools to plug into any workflow. And we know that the renderer is second to none. But a pipeline is awesome, and it's great for studios like ILM or Weta Digital. And it makes sense for them when they have a lot of support, a lot of proprietary coding, a lot of staff members. On Avatar, I think there was 800 to 900 staff just at Weta finishing up the post-production. So you can see the level of that. But this is really not the best solution for everybody. It's not like one size fits all. One of the special things about Lightwave is that although it fits into pipelines, it's also it's a fantastic tool actually for individual artists. And it's also a fantastic tool for smaller teams. I just want to mention just a little anecdote now. My opportunity that I had to work with Jim Cameron, the first night I met with him, I had a meeting at his offices. You guys were involved in that, and I went down and I was able to go back that night and sit down by myself with the Lightwave software, do a full HD render of a creature test and take it back very quickly for turnaround and show that to him. I think when other studios were bringing back budgets and schedules and all these kinds of things, the visual element was what really gave the opportunity because it speaks to people. So the majority of studios around the world are about 40 people or less. So those people need to have that type of quick responsiveness to shots. They need to be able to work that quickly, as you've heard from the panel. It's not, budgets and schedules aren't getting bigger. They're getting, it's getting more challenging. So Lightwave offers a complete pipeline, as most of you know. You can model, you can do effects, you can do rigging, animation, you can render with its great award-winning render engine that you saw tonight. And to me, being a film student from USC, the renderer is like paramount. If a software doesn't have an internal renderer built in and you have to do this whole shenanigan just to get the renders out, it's a little crazy to me. So I'm so proud of our renderer. And it's unlimited. So that's an amazing thing. Simplicity and quality, without all the fuss, actually, right at your fingertips. So the imagery speaks for itself, don't you think? The things that we saw tonight, I was so impressed with the earlier stuff. It's, hats off to everybody. So, a couple of things I want to share with you now, just to turn it a little bit on itself. Big pipelines are awesome, but smaller teams are also awesome, and they do great work. I have a good example of that, of a team that is about 20-ish people from an independent film called Iron Sky. This is a company called Energia in Finland. It's incredible to see the stuff that they've done. It's a very small team using Lightwave. Let's take a look at some of their work. most exciting things to me, being in this position of fostering Lightwave forward, is what people do with the software. So a small team like that, this is such a cool film. It's an independent film that would never have gotten funding possibly in Hollywood. They had a great idea. It's about Nazis that escaped from the World War II, and they went the other side of the moon, and they built up their forces all this time, and now they're coming back to invade us. It's an awesome concept. It's really, really cool. I mean, it just wouldn't have, it wouldn't have happened. So, it's interesting to see what a small team can do. So a small team of animators did that. But even more impressive, to underscore that, the work that they did, the instancing, was done with the Lightwave 11 beta software. So we're not talking about something that doesn't exist and is not ready yet or is not possible. We're obviously not releasing the final version, but people are doing work with it, and we've made great progress. And we're releasing the final this year. So real benefits right now, even in the pre-release. But as impressive as a small team is, as impressive as their work is, even more impressive is a team of one. What can one person do? What idea can one person have? And what can the software facilitate? I think that's one of the things that I am the most proud of. I mean, Eddie's sitting here in the audience. You did a great thing. I remember when you did the PAX project. It was incredible, One artist did that. So an amazing thing to have one artist have a vision and to have software that will facilitate that vision without someone else coming and saying, you can do it. They can do it themselves. They don't have to ask for permission. They don't have to have funding. They make their vision come real. This is another example I want to show you of a short film called Abiogenesis. One man, Richard Manns in New Zealand, made this film himself using Lightwave. He tried other softwares, Maya, but he couldn't make it work. He couldn't. He did. He did. You ask him. It's on his website. He tried it, and he couldn't make it work, and he chose our software, Lightwave, to do this. And with inspiration, and without a major studio backing him or telling him, empowering him, they didn't say, you can do it, now you have permission, we're going to give you money. He went himself with his vision, one man, one computer, and Lightwave. Jerry. How amazing is it to have Jerry Ryan here? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was happy to be here. We'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Have a great night. And
that's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.